most home service companies out there have very little system processes, don't run very efficiently.
When we went to sell, a lot of times companies are working for 6 months to a year to 18 months just to get ready for sale because they don't have any of those things in place. And because of that, they have a lot of work to do.
One of the things I'm curious about is what was one of the nightmares? What was one of the things that maybe did kind of kick you in the groin and was a very painful lesson for you to learn that puts you in the position that you're at today?
The one good thing that you learn on exiting your company is you learn everything your company did amazing and everything the company did, poorly.
I think an important question I don't want to forget is because when you're working with an investment bank, what do they take typically off the table?
And one of the things I wanted to let you know that I really appreciated about your story is that it seems like the success that you had is not simply, but a lot of it is just because of the person that you are and the values that you have.
Tyler Ringe, welcome to the HSA podcast.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Pleasure being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Like I mentioned before this, I think we just jump into kind of the good, bad, and the ugly of exiting a company. We know you were able to do that with your HVAC plumbing company.
Yep.
And let's just kind of get into it. Actually, let's just start with your question, Tyler.
Yeah. So, starting off I don't think it was your first business, but we've talked about the curb company before. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit. But when you're getting into the HVAC and plumbing company initially, you weren't starting with the end in mind of, am I going to exit this? Am I going to sell it? What the plan was. You're just kind of going for it. I think like most people are when they start a business.
Yeah.
At some point, something changed and clicked, and you ended up selling and transacting out of that business and moving on to other things. And just at what point did things click and change for you?
Yeah. So I started my business with my brother, 50-50 business partners, in 2008, end of 2008, beginning of 2009, with the goal of creating ourselves our own job rather than having a job with someone else. We were just essentially saying, oh, we can do this on our own. And so I got my first time home buyer credit, $8,000 from the government. I bought my first truck and a little bit of advertising, and I knew the community really, really well. So I was able to get on, guerrilla marketing with like local forums, like actual forums, not Facebook quite yet. And from there, we just built a really great little reputation in a small master plan community where we kept the majority of our business. We really only worked in about a 10-mile radius. But yeah, our goal at the beginning was just to have a job where we answered to ourselves. We were always very entrepreneurial. My dad was a general contractor, and we watched him, how he did business for years, and we learned a lot from that. And he always had us working. He bought us, like you said, a curbing, like a decorative curbing, concrete curbing trailer that had the mixer on it and everything you needed, and then the curbing machine, because he needed like thousands of lineal feet of curbing on our ranch in Cave Creek. And he said, oh, you guys can learn how to do this. So at 16 years old, we were cracked hand and, playing with concrete all day. And in the summer, we'd go out and, do that. And it was there was an art to it, but I learned from that experience that concrete wasn't going to be in my future. It's not a very pleasant job at the time.
So obviously you have, a past and experience with your dad being in GC, and we'll talk about the exit, I'm sure, later. But what are some of the things that in the beginning, before you even knew that you were going to get yourself up to a $30+ million exit, what were some of the things in the relationship between you and your brother that made it possible to get there from the start?
Yeah, well, my brother's, and he's been on a lot of podcasts. He's the doer, and I'm the dreamer. So okay. He's very much driven, highly organized, and willing to wake up and just grind out whatever he needs to do. And I'm kind of on the other spectrum of ADHD and, seeing like different opportunities and understanding what the consumer is looking for and trying to figure out ways to deliver that in the best way possible. And then he is actually able to take those ideas and, bring them to fruition. And that's always been our strategy of just, we work our best when we're driving to Vegas for a convention, and we sit, we always drive, we sit right next to each other, and over, 2-3 hours, we develop, like, identify where we're struggling or our weaknesses, what we can do. And then we take it back and we actually, do it.
can I flip that question then and ask, like, what are some things that, and I don't want to end any business relationships right here with this one, but what are some things that from the start would have been a red flag that you do see in other businesses that aren't going to make it to that finish line?
Yeah. So I see a lot of times I see a lot of business partnerships, and I'm in them too. If you don't have, if you have two of the same thing, like if you have two dreamers, you'll always be dreaming. If you have two doers, a lot of times you're missing on, ways to innovate. So, and you can get that by going to, getting business coaches and getting outside, influence, creating a sphere, creating a network of people that you can rely upon to give you feedback. But, choosing a partner, you want to look for someone who doesn't have your weaknesses and has, a different strength. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of back to what you were talking about earlier, because I want to dive into like where the opportunity of that you didn't even realize came from to exit at this event that you were at.
Yeah, well, obviously, blue collar businesses, the trades, especially home services. Private equity has, obviously been pulling into that market for quite a while, doing roll-ups and finding ways to, get scale by, buying additional companies and having a single C-suite so that they don't have to have all the redundancy, and, optimizing the business in such a way that it becomes more profitable and, is good for private equity. I didn't know any of that. I was completely focused on my business, how we can grow it. I had no exit in mind. When I sold the company, I was 34, 35. So I thought I'd be doing, plumbing and air conditioning for the next 20 years and build a really amazing company, which it was a really amazing company. And that's what I found out sitting next to, I was at a convention over in, I think, California or Vegas. And one of the guys sitting across from me was Brian Cohen with SF&P Partners. And, we're all sitting there bragging about our businesses. And he's like, well, yeah, tell me a little bit about yours. And I said, oh, we're, really profitable this year. Like we looked at our profit and we were like 6 to 8% net profit on average in years past. And, but we were growing rapidly. We'd gotten up to about 50 trucks and, our payroll, if we had a couple slow months, our payroll could end up, soaking up all of our savings. And I said, we were always very hesitant to raise price. And in doing that, we had a lot of C and D level clients that were really just, they cost us more money to have them than to get rid of them. And so we went through and I raised our prices wholesale by 10%, which I thought was extreme. And, later found out that it probably could have done 20 or 30% and still been the company of choice for the area that we were working in. But because we were so efficient, our operations, our operating procedures, they were so streamlined that 10% literally just went right to the bottom line. And we were running, 16 to 19% profit. And, so I was excited about that because I was like, hey, we're actually going to make money year over year. Like this is not a fluke. It's a trend. And, when I told him that, he's like, well, your company's, probably really valuable. You should, let us look at it. I'm like, oh, what do you do? And he's like, well, I meet people like you. And, from there, it was one of those things I told him like, oh, I've heard this before, company, like I've seen, guys exit their business and they get enough to retire for 2 or 3 years. And they're like, like that $2 or $3 or $4 million after you pay taxes.
It's almost not even worth it.
It's not. You're essentially just giving yourself a sabbatical. And he's like, oh no, like, private equity's very interested in this market. We're seeing multiples, and he explained how all of it worked, like they give you a multiple on EBITDA. And I was like, wow. Because we weren't burnt out yet, but we were getting to the point where, we needed to continue to grow, because if you're not growing, you're dying. Yeah. And, so we sat down and seriously considered it.
How big was the team? Sorry, Tyler. How big was the team? You said 50 trucks at this point?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
This is how many years in?
So that was from 2009. That would have been 2019 that we engaged with SF&P. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you meet this guy and you start taking it seriously and thinking about.
We met him, I think, in June, and we were, so the process is we met him in June. We said, hey, yeah, let's look at what we need to do to bring it to market, and learned a lot at that point. You should always be building your business to bring it to market. You should, because a marketable business is a good business, a business that's running with profit. It's running on operations. You can't have an owner who's just doing everything and expect that that's a company that someone really wants to buy. They want a company where the owner can remove himself for weeks at a time and the business still operates, because then when a company comes in and buys them, they can, get that scale. They don't have to sit there and put a bunch of new people into the business to get it to function.
So you had said something a few minutes ago when you were talking about making those changes, and there was a really scary change that you'd mentioned. And I think a lot of businesses go through that point when they're fearful of raising prices and what that would look like, because they don't want to lose more. They don't want to lose business. Mm-hmm. How did you make that decision, and what kind of discretionary things did you look at to say, okay, increasing my price by 10%, I might lose some people, but it's going to allow those that should be playing in my sandbox to stay with me? How did that impact your business, and how did you make that decision?
Yeah, well, when you're operating, on a lower profit percentage, you're always stressed out, because, if you miss a little bit, you're negative, you're in the red. Adding profit percentage to the bottom line allowed us to, have a little bit more breathing room, not be as emotionally involved with the, monthly profit and loss statement, even though we're always looking at it.
Weren't you scared you were going to lose people?
Yeah, absolutely. The market that we worked in, I considered to be very price conscious, and we had trained them to be that way. Like we were doing 70 to 80% of the work in the market. And we would always position ourselves as the best value. We weren't always the cheapest price, but we were always competitive with the cheapest price, not necessarily 30 or 40% more, but 10, 15% more. And that's going up against guys who are working out of their garage and have no overhead. So their profit numbers were better than our profit numbers. Ours was a larger total, but, profit dollars versus profit percentage. But, so we didn't shed customers. Like we were actually just genuinely too cheap especially for the value that we were offering. Showing up, on Service Titan, the dispatch text messages, showing up in uniform, wrapped trucks, booties, drop cloths. I mean, we did everything that you would expect out of a private equity type ran company. Like we were setting the bar for the level of service that we were providing. And that was another learning experience for me. Was after we sold, they raised the prices, and this is going through COVID, so prices were going up anyways, but they raised them another 20, 30% in addition to the, I would say probably even 40%, in addition to what I had already done. And that's when we went from doing 70 to 80% of the work in the community to doing 20 or 30% of the work in the community. So you can't.
But what was the difference? So you lost a lot of work, but were you still just as profitable because the prices were raised so much more?
Yeah. In fact, they're currently their profit numbers are phenomenal, but they're not growing anymore. Right. So
do you think they missed the sweet spot a little bit?
That's exactly what I'm alluding to. That's exactly what I'm getting to, is that there is a sweet spot. And when you're working in a portfolio of businesses, a lot of times it's pretty heavy-handed of well, if we can do this here, we can do this here, we can do this here, we can do this here. And I don't necessarily disagree with that mentality, but there's nuance to it. You got to understand what the market can bear. And if you're just outside of it, then you're going to be a company who is an advertising giant, spending 10, 15%, in revenue per year on marketing because you're not going to get the referral that everyone else is going to get. So
I'm curious too, though, when they came in, because they owned multiple companies. So, I mean, they got economies of scale. Did your prices go down for materials?
No.
Anything like nothing really changed there?
We had the best negotiated pricing. We were always very, very loyal to our suppliers, like not to a fault. Like but they always coached us. They always had, we always had their support and they always had our support. And if there was a problem in their business, they would come to us and we would, say, hey, this is what we're seeing and this is what we can do. And they would a lot of times, either support that or figure out a way to, change.
So you were loyal to them and they kind of knew it and they were loyal to you.
Ferguson and Train. Yeah. Ferguson and Train. Train in Arizona is its own independent distributor. Ferguson was for our plumbing division, and they, it was as much of a friendship with all the different territory managers as it was, mutual coaching for success.
Yeah. I mean, because and again, I don't know anything about this, so forgive me, but like with Train, with all the HVAC, like they're all basically the same, just a different name basically. But Train's usually known as the premium. So is there a method to that? You're going with the premium product?
Yeah. We were always we were the number one variable speed distributor, definitely in the state, but we won every award for high end systems that Train offered. Presidential award year after year, highest sales in variable speed equipment year after year, because we always kind of with the approach of it's the same amount of work, and we would rather sell the higher end equipment because our customers are going to be happy. So we were always more competitive. We were always very competitive on the 16 SEER, single stage equipment with, the average, but where they would be, doing a multiple by percentage on the equipment, we'd always make more on the variable speed, but not a lot more. Right. And so we sold higher quality equipment with just the process of install. We defined what I think the process of running a highly effective, efficient installation company needs to do to operate in that.
So because that's an important point. When you engage it with this investment firm, obviously that's obviously something that they're looking at. But is that something that somewhat maybe set you apart from other companies? Because I mean, I would say, in my experience, most home service companies out there have very little system processes, don't run very efficiently. So for you to have that, I mean, I would think that would kind of set you guys apart.
Because we were process driven and because everyone knew their role inside of the company and the company hierarchy, when we went to sell, a lot of times companies are working for 6 months to a year to 18 months just to get ready for sale because they don't have any of those things in place. And because of that, they have a lot of work to do. I met Brian with SF&P in, I think, June, July. We sold in December. And we interviewed 11 different companies with sit down interviews, talk about where they want to take the business. Are we going to be a platform? Are we going to be a roll up? And so we spent more time dating than we did fixing the company to get it to the point of being a marketable asset. Where the pitfall isn't necessarily. We were already very close to ready for sale, and that included our books and everything. When they do the financial reviews, they really want to see, the true financials, because then you're going to be doing your ad backs and everything like that to get your. They want to see all of that, and it needs to be clean, and it needs to be well documented, and you need to have paid your taxes. You're selling an asset that they're taking the liability of, so they don't want something where that's going to bite them in arrears. But so focusing on that if you are thinking of exiting the company at any point in the future. And that's why I say you should always build it to sell it. Like, that's my mentality now. That doesn't mean you have to sell. It just means that if it ever gets to the point where it's like, hey, we had a really great year, our trailing 12 months is just phenomenal, everything's already ready, you can engage somebody and you can sell it by the end of the next fiscal year with a phenomenal trailing 12, and that's what they're going to be paying your multiple on.
So it's pretty evident that you and your business partner work really, really well dynamically together. You guys complement each other really well because you guys have stuff in place naturally that a lot of people, like you had said before, they have to hire a business coach for that. Outside of the obvious, you guys have processes, you guys have systems in place, which is amazing. Most don't. What are some of the other things in your business that you think a PE firm would find extremely attractive, or did find extremely attractive?
Branding and the ownership of the market that we served. Like, that they don't really like companies, and I'm speaking from what I believe they like and what they don't like. They don't like companies that are spread out all over and can't show consistent growth or consistent revenue. They like to see something that is as efficient as possible because there's less for them to fix. Now, at the same time, if you have a company that's just ran perfectly and you've got massive profits and you've got all of your, if there's no room for them to improve it, a lot of times it also gets to the point where it's like, oh, we're just buying EBITDA so that we can, add it to our portfolio and then sell it. They like to see companies that are, well ran, but not necessarily perfect or have the best negotiated prices, because that's where they get the
extra value.
So you had mentioned branding and marketing, and then earlier you had mentioned how you're very much community based. Mm-hmm. I guess there's kind of two questions here. Number one, how did you go about branding yourself in the community to be that trusted company? And yeah, I guess I'll just start with that one.
Yeah. Well, we were at everything. I mean, all the community events where you would see, thousands of people. We would always be there, always be like the title sponsor. If it came to an issue, we had a very, very tight-knit social media group in the community. Like, it's a very distinct community group with, 20, 30,000 people on it. And, if you had a problem, everyone knew what your problem was. And there was no, people were very transparent. If, sometimes they didn't give the businesses an opportunity to fix the issue. And that's what we'd always come on and be like, hey, this is the first we're hearing of this issue. Please reach out to us directly. Or if they had already talked to us, we weren't afraid to stand up for ourselves, but we had always make sure that the community knew that we did everything we possibly could to make it right. And very rarely would we walk away from a situation where we couldn't part as, business and customer in a copacetic relationship. Maybe we're not doing work for them anymore, but they respect what we did to make it right. Or we would fix it and, they would continue to be, a fan of the company. And so doing that all the time, very stressful. You're just sitting there searching through Facebook all the time, trying to see what the next fire you have to put out. But we did it for years, and there was never any. We did not accept less than a happy customer.
You have a team managing social media and managing this site, and how much time was that taking? And
we always responded as the owners.
Yeah. So you were personally watching this.
That is one of the things that if you're growing a business and you're trying to get to that $5 to $10 to $15 $1 million area, I think your direct response as I know companies that are doing $1 billion a year, and the owner still responds. It may not be him, but it's in his voice.
Right.
It's a lot more powerful coming from the owner. But it can be done by a manager, and that would be the challenge that I would make, is that there is a way to do it professionally with a general manager or someone high in the company, because that was one of the things that I also saw as a failing after we left ProSkill. We always had a voice in that community, and as we worked ourselves out of the company entirely, we weren't always seeing eye to eye. So, I didn't want to be the voice of the company anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting what you just said, because obviously you hear so often in business coaching, like, you need to work on the business, not in the business. And I think so many times business operators, they're in the trenches on a daily basis, which is great to a certain point, but they don't get to see those things like reviews, for instance, and having the owner respond to a review, because at the end of the day, it's just like sales. People aren't buying the product, they're buying you. And the company isn't the company, it's you and it's your vision. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. They're too busy scrambling. And that's the value in building systems and processes, so that you can look at your business from 30,000 feet up and say, oh, okay, that's where I need to insert myself. And I think that's something that probably contributed heavily into the brand that you have and the exit that you had. So one more question for you, from me. And I kind of asked about this earlier. You had mentioned raising the price a little bit, right? And how you had lost a little bit of business. I'm curious, like, how you kind of walk that line without losing too much business, but also making sure that your profit margins are higher. How did you figure out who your ideal client was, and how did you go about restructuring your company to have that new offer that may have been a little bit higher without too much risk on your end?
Well, we did it more in a knee-jerk reaction, or a very slow knee-jerk reaction. It was after years of, kind of growing and seeing the growth, but at the same time not seeing the profit numbers increase. And so when we increased it, it wasn't a matter of testing. We did it, and it was successful, and we only held the company for another about 18 months after that, and we sold. That being said, if I had still been there and been going through COVID and the price, making sure that, number one, whatever your operating system is, whatever your CRM is, that you're getting all those materials updated on a weekly or monthly basis, whatever the time frame needs to be, so that you're actually bidding the jobs and not losing money on the price increase. But then from there, once you do hit that, I would say 15+% area, I would continue to just quarterly raise prices, not by 10%, but by a percentage, and then watch your close rate and see if, how far, what can the market bear. Like I said, I think we could have raised prices by another 10-15% over the course of those 18 months and been total, when I say raise price, I don't mean raise price because the material went up, but actually genuinely raise the profit dollars, or the profit percentage.
Because obviously your overhead is going up as you expand, so you need to continue to follow suit, right?
Well, yeah, your overhead expands incrementally. So when you're just a owner-operator, your overhead's very low, but it's very difficult to get to like that $5 million point without starting to get, invest in, additional trucks, training, the resources that go along, with that. And then 10, 15 million is the next big step. We had gotten to the point where our overhead was correctly attributed to the revenue that we had. So our overhead was right around 18-19% for the business. As you're growing a business, though, when you're in that $7-8 million point, your overhead might be 30-35%, because you're still having to hire and train those middle managers that you're going to need for that next step to that higher revenue number. So there's inefficiencies that exist in the different sides of the company, and you just got to be willing to make that investment and understand that it's a long-term play. And that's why it's so important to keep your culture good, because if you're investing in those tougher years where margins are going to be slimmer, and then you get to the point where you're ready to or where it's paying you back now on that investment, you don't want to get to that point and have culture be in such a way that you lose one of those people you really invested a lot of time and effort into, and then all of a sudden, we're growing, and now we're not serving the customer as well as we could because we don't have the people in place to do it.
If you're open to it, I don't know what you can or can't, but I mean, you were kind of talking earlier about, platform roll up. Like, can we get into any specifics of your exit and how you did it and what
So out of the companies that we interviewed, some of them wanted to use us as a platform. If you're going to be the platform, they're going to want to take your systems and processes. They'll try to improve them to some degree. But typically, if a company's looking for a platform, they're just entering that market, and they're going to want to keep you and all the management team and grow them as an asset to take those systems and processes and instill them in other roll-ups that they'd be putting under you. That can be a really amazing place to be. But if you're a business owner that wants to like go to the next step of their life, I wouldn't recommend it. You're involved for at least a couple equity events. So, another 5 to 10 years. If you're going to be a roll-up's great as long as your company is, designed in such a way that you're not necessary as much anymore. If you are necessary, they're going to take away from your multiple because they're going to have to replace what you're doing rather than add back it when they say, because your salary, if you're an owner who is, just steering the ship more than being in the trenches, then your salary becomes an add back. If you're doing like the lion's share of the management of the company, then they have to replace you so that salary is not going to be added to profit when you leave. It's going to be added. You're going to replace that salary.
Yeah.
So is it kind of expected then that the owner needs to step away and the middle management needs to, they're hoping that they stay, right? Because they're the ones effectively still running it when the owner's not there.
Yeah.
So what are they doing for that middle management level to keep the culture when an owner steps away and keep everyone happy?
Well, that's a great question. How do they keep the culture the same going forward? I don't think that, traditionally speaking, I don't think the culture stays the same. I mean, it does become a more corporate type environment where, the KPIs are more of a requirement than a goal. And if you're not hitting them, you get a slap on the butt. But so that can be discouraging. But that being said, as long as you're taking care of the team members and you're giving them good opportunities, we didn't see like a lot of loss in the company in terms of employees. I would say that the culture takes a little bit of a hit when, like I said,
different people are given directions.
Well, it's not that. It's just our team felt like the community heroes. Like we really our guys love to come to work. They love to work with it. When it starts becoming more price focused, then you start to lose a little bit of that appeal to the guy who just wants to like
go and help.
Yeah. So there's a time frame there where people are learning the new normal, and they end up seeing it benefit themselves. But there is that tweak of kind of getting them out of the mindset of just trying to be the hero.
A lot of times you hear about the nightmares that happen in the private equity space when a company gets acquired. What kept you confident through this process that wasn't necessarily the case for you? Was it just your confidence in your brand, or what are some things that maybe other home service companies need to fear when they start going through that process?
Well, we chose a really great group. The group that we went with, they had very good systems and procedures. They had very great, an extremely good track record. I think our process overall went very, very well. And I still look at it and it makes me cringe a little bit. So the ones that don't go well, I couldn't imagine being, in that seat as like the managers and stuff like that who are taking over. And especially like if a company, and I've seen this several times, where a company is bought as the platform company and none of the management is ready to take that on. That it's just way bigger than what they are understanding or have an understanding of how to do. And I wouldn't, like a platform company would typically be, $40 plus, $50 plus $1 million in revenue. If you're sub $20 million in revenue, you don't have the assets yet to, I think, be a platform company. And I've seen a lot of private equity companies, especially when the bidding war was at its highest, they were just taking whatever opportunity they could to step into it. And I saw a lot of those fail. The ones that are successful are the ones who already have the C-suite built. And that's what you should be looking for. You should be seeing like a very solid operational, management team that is from the industry already. If they're not from the industry, then they're not. You guys are going to speak totally different languages.
I kind of want to get back because we didn't really go through like your deal and like what that looked like, and kind of just how you did.
Yeah. So
principles, everything.
So engage them when they come in. You learn more about your business than you'll ever know. So in business, these guys, what do I call them? Not business brokers.
Investment banker.
An investment banker, like representing, you know, a business, and then having a large network of companies looking to enter that industry. They're farming out your credentials to 300 to 400 different companies. So they'll come in and they take a hard look with a financial auditor at your books, making sure you're, you know, an accrual-based company, not a cash company, making sure that the profit numbers are good. They're looking for all the add backs that they can pump down to the bottom line. They're doing everything they can to get the maximum value for your company because they make the most money when they sell it for the highest value. They look at all your systems and procedures, your management teams, your vehicle fleet, how old the vehicles are, how many miles they have on. They're looking at every asset that they possibly can to give you a very good understanding of where you stand, what the potential liabilities are, and and then pointing out the great points of the company. And typically they'll take the things that you're weak on and show that as an opportunity. Like, hey, you put the right people in this place, you're going to get efficiency out of that. So they do that. You learn a lot about your company, just like a crash course of providing all the information that they need to create the sim. And then when they create the sim, they create a teaser for that. They give it out to 300 to 400 companies. Out of those 300 to 400 companies, you hope, 20, 30, 40, 50 respond that they're interested in your company. And then from there, you engage in a non-disclosure agreement with the different companies. And then you meet them. You have a sit down, you go over the business, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you're looking for in a partner. What they want to know about the management, like who are your, great leaders, who do we absolutely have to hold on to, that type of thing. And from there, it goes out. You sit down. You meet with the different groups that are interested in buying it, and you just find the one that's the best pick for you. And that came down for us. Things that you'll be looking at. So a lump sum payout where you get a check and you split. Typically, you'll have somewhere between 3 months and a year of where you're involved in the business, but not necessarily involved in the day-to-day operations, but just, like giving guidance and not necessarily fixing problems. And
are you saying this is the route you took?
No.
Okay.
No, we had that opportunity with one company. It was actually the higher offer, but there was no opportunity for reinvestment, which we wanted the opportunity to, like we did have do have a very high level of confidence with the company we went with, to give us a return on our investment if we rolled it.
Yeah.
And so we did. And
how much, if you don't mind, how much, not money, but percentage wise, did you leave back in the company for a second buy?
50-50.
Really?
Yeah. Took 50 out, left 50 in. And no, we left about 25% in. Yeah. And when we did that, we structured it in such a way that my 10 managers that helped us build the business, each of them, we bought them each equity in the role so that they would get a multiple when they went to a new private equity. Typically, the whole time, we were hoping the whole time would be 3-4 years. We're sitting at 5, and we're right at the precipice of, I think, that equity turning over. We did it in such a way where our investment, they would get the multiple on it, and we would get the investment back. So essentially, we weren't giving them money. We were giving them the opportunity to make money by continuing to support the company, because we didn't want our guys to.
Yeah, super smart.
And out of them, out of the 10, there's still 7 there. The 3 that left all left because they got other opportunities where they were given equity in the company, or started their own business. And so it was pretty much they were clean, beneficial, mutually, appreciated breaks, not because, they left because they couldn't handle it.
And that does seem to be a common trend that we've seen as we've spoken with multiple different business owners that exited their business, that their managers that were in place through the trenches with them throughout the years, like taking care of them and making sure that they were attached to not only the initial exit, but the second exit. That's what really keeps, I know you said the culture changes a little bit, but that's kind of what intacts the culture.
That's the glue.
To be able to make it through that second exit. So I think that's really important that you mentioned that.
Yeah, because if the only reason that they're staying, and the private equity companies, they'll identify 2 or 3 people in your company and they'll give them equity.
Yeah.
But the reason why I did so many managers is because they're my family. Like you built the company. This wasn't a company I built to sell. It was a company I built as it was my baby. So, and these people were my family and still are. I can't wait for the future's still a long time out. So we've got all kinds of opportunities to work with these guys in the future.
Couple things. So if you could take, because I want to talk about legacy roofing as well and kind of what you've taken from that experience and implemented into that. But if you could take, let's say, one good thing from that experience and one bad thing from that experience, what are those? Because I think real quick, just like context wise, I think that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this. There's a lot of home service because if you're in home service, like private equity, like they're looking, but a lot of these guys hear horror stories of things gone wrong, and yes, they're obviously there. That happens, but there's also, amazing life-changing stories, legacy-changing stories. So, I kind of want to understand better that, the good and bad.
The one good thing that you learn on exiting your company is you learn everything your company did amazing and everything the company did, poorly. And you really learn how to look at financials and understand what a healthy company looks like, and the way you know that it's healthy is that's what's marketable. So if knowing your financials, knowing your KPIs, knowing your systems and processes, like in not accepting less in any venture you go forward with is an amazing step up in terms of the knowledge and experience that a business owner brings to the next businesses that they work on. So just really taking a step back and diving into your company's financials, diving into your company's systems and process, and articulating them so that the company that is looking at it, you can look at it, see it, test it, make sure that you're not just blowing smoke. And when you do that, you find holes in that process, like, hey, we need to fix this because this isn't good. So just doing that same thing, kind of reviewing your business on a quarterly or annual basis, where you're really diving into it, seeing what's broken, what's working really well, propping up what's working really well, and fixing what's broken, and just continuing to optimize the company and make sure that it's running efficiently. What I would say the biggest negative, like, what's the context?
Like if you had this deal to do over again, would you have changed anything about the deal?
Well, I wouldn't have sold when I did because COVID was awesome for the air conditioning and plumbing industry.
So you would have been bigger.
We would have grown. Yeah, we would have grown dramatically. But that's one thing you can't. Hindsight's 20/20. You cannot. You can't get fixated on
what could have happened
when you're going to sell it for the highest profit. You gotta bring it to market, and when the number's right, the number's right. If the number's not right, walk away, because we had every opportunity to take a step back from it, but take a step back from the deals. But if the number's right, then it's time to go.
So kind of like Rio said, I mean, it sounds like you guys did actually have a pretty smooth, sale to exit, which is incredible. You don't hear about that very often. Yeah. One of the things I'm curious about is what was one of the nightmares? What was one of the things that maybe did kind of kick you in the groin and was a very painful lesson for you to learn that puts you in the position that you're at today?
I'm gonna circle back to what he said. And don't forget your question, because you're gonna have to say it again. The negative thing. Oh, now I'm lost.
I do the same thing.
We had the benefit of being able to go to market quickly, but if we had been planning to go to market for 2 or 3 years and had engaged a company to come in and say, hey, our goal isn't to sell right away. Our goal is, like, we want to build our cert or our sim with you, and then we want to, pick the. Yeah. We could have, tacked on. We could have raised the prices by another 5% and seen what the result would have been. Every dollar that went to the bottom line would have been, multiplied by.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, even if you didn't go to an exit, going through that process, you got to learn everything about your business. So if you didn't, you got to come out of that and be like, dude, we tweak these, tune these things up. 12 months from now, then we go to it and we crush.
And yeah, that's what a lot of the time those companies are going through. That's why they are 12 to 18 months out. They see those weaknesses and they start to fix them, and then they get a trailing 12 months that's the best they've ever had, and then they sell it. My challenge would be, if the exit, if you're happy and you're doing well and you don't need to exit, looking at that and saying, hey, now we know where we stand, what we're worth. What if we hold it for another 12 months and we fix the little things that we saw in that process? I guarantee you, if we had held it for another 12 to 18 months, we would have gotten, probably 40 or 50x or 40 or 50 million instead of.
That's just from the changes you would have made from the learning process.
We were so efficient that if we just raised our prices by 5%, it would have been 5% on, it would have been another probably $1 million in EBITDA. That would have been multiplied by 11 and a half.
Yep.
I think an important question I don't want to forget is, because when you're working with an investment bank, what do they take typically off the table?
I was thinking about this yesterday. I forget what we paid them. Whatever it was worth it though. Yeah, I don't remember how the fee structure worked. But yeah, it was it wasn't tremendous. I want to say it was structured in such a way that, like, the first $2 million they got a certain percentage, like 8 to 10%, and then it went down by a percentage point as you went up in your total revenue or your total payout. And so as you sold for more, they made more dollars but less of a percentage.
Right.
So that is one thing. Like, you're paying more to sell by percentage a $5 million company than a $25 million company. But I can't. That's why I need my brother. He'd be able to rip that out right away. He'd tell you exactly what they got paid.
I mean, I guess that I guess you answered it. I mean, it wasn't enough to stop the deal from going through. So
oh no,
still made it still worth it. Okay, let's say this then. If you were going to go to another exit, would you go that same route?
Oh yes. Yeah, because the alternate, the way to sell your company in a stupid way is to do a lot of what I said, not everything, a lot of what I said, and then you don't know about ad backs. You're not going and doing the auction process where you're bringing people who are interested in buying your company. You're taking it and you're putting it out there saying, this is how much my company's worth. Right. So you're creating, if I had said, what do you think our company's worth? To my brother before my conversation with Brian, I would have said maybe like $4 or $5 million. I don't know. Like, wow. And then after it's
crazy.
Well, but multiples at the time were around
12 to
8 to 10. We got 11 and a half, and we were one of the highest ones in 2020, like in with our size and business type that I'm aware of. And but that number would have never been the number that I came up with. Yeah. And so we would have undersold ourselves by a lot. So I think that just the amount of money that you're going to get by going through the professional route, not with a business broker, but with a investment banker, you are going to get their fee. They'll make up 3, 4, 5 times in what you're going to get in the total value of your company. I would never take my company to market like for sale by owner or something like that. That's very, 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 very detrimental to you.
And can I ask? I think you told us off camera. What did you end up selling your company for?
We sold for $34 million, and gosh, what was 11.5%, 11.5 time multiple. I think it was on $2.9 million in EBITDA.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was the revenue? What would that be?
Our revenue, we were sitting right around 18, 19 million.
So the question that I had for you was, you did go through what seems like an amazing process, like very somewhat seamless. I know there was probably a lot of headaches, but what was the biggest lesson that you learned as far as something that was unforeseen, unexpected, and it kind of hit you from left field?
I feel like yours was kind of a little
I know.
boring
I'm
because
like,
everything went
man,
great.
this is a great.
You're like, man, this
it's
is
a great story.
I
Just do what he did, guys, and you'll be fine.
but it is a great example of like that, because there's a lot of horror stories, but this is a great example of like things can go great and you could do well and change your family line.
I don't think a lot of people believe that.
I think what's amazing about it is just before, usually, typically how it would happen is these guys would probably come in and then say, here's all the stuff you need to fix. But the fact you're running such an efficient business on the front end, you had Service Titan, you're so system and process driven that it was ready to go. I know a lot of people in the home service space struggle getting to that point where everything's just operating. They can actually step out.
Yeah.
Was that just lessons along the way with you and your brother to what drove that, I guess, greatness of efficiency that you guys created?
Yeah, we just didn't settle we never settled. Like, we were always just trying to figure out how to better serve our clients and better serve our employees. And then ultimately that ended up better serving us than, we delayed gratification for a very long time to get, a high level of gratification later.
Yeah.
How is it that you think that you prioritize your customer experience that maybe other companies haven't?
You said you set the standard and like what?
We wanted to own the community. It was not about like it was. We had such a strong ownership of our market, and there were so many people. Like we would get. I'd have people set up at a trade show right next to us at the trade show that we sponsored every year for year after year after year. And they say, I was always very friendly, always very open with any business owner. Any business owner I talked to, hey, the rising tides raises all ships. So if you're doing better and you're a better competitor, that means that I'd rather work against you than work against the guy who doesn't know what his profit is at the end of the day, and he's winning on dollars alone and not service. But I talked to him and said, man, how do you break into Anthem? I was like, I don't know. You're going to have to do a lot better job, or I'm going to have to screw up. Like, and it ended up being, the latter, that the company, got a little bit too greedy after we left, and that was a downhill slope. And the thing I'll go back on is there wasn't anyone championing the messaging on social media. Like, people, they're expensive now. If someone had gone on and said, hey, just so you know, we experienced this price increase over the last 9 months, and we've charged for that, and we're still delivering the highest quality of service, we're still delivering the highest quality of install, because they didn't lose everyone. A lot of people still see a lot of value in what they do. It's just it was shockingly quick.
The expectation wasn't set right.
And I think that they were I think the private equity was looking to exit sooner than what they actually ended up getting to do, because 24, 25 have been, not the best years. They've been tougher years in the industry. And so that's why it's wrapping up now. But
I feel like I know the answer.
Go ahead.
And I've been wrong at this a lot, but I feel like I've grown and got a lot better at it. It's honestly kind of the thing that I saw in him as well. But I think the thing that you're missing, that I'm catching, because you've done very well for yourself. You sold your company, you made tens of millions of dollars, but you're still just sitting here a dude. Like, you're just a dude. You're a regular guy. People, customers feel that.
Yeah.
They get that.
Yeah.
And when these guys, especially in the social media world, which I've probably been a part of a little bit at some point, but when you start separating yourself so far from your customers, when it's like, I'm driving the Lamborghini or driving all that, like, people lose the, like, you just separated yourself from them instead of like, no, I'm just one of you. I just want to offer you a great service. I'm here if I screw up, I'm going to tell you about it, and we're going to fix it the best we can. And that's what I get from you right now. And kind of when we spoke out at that event as well, is like you're just a regular guy.
The personality in the company, the way an owner can create culture.
Yeah,
and I
think though. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's also the challenge, because that's also like there comes a point where if your goal is to grow and scale, where it's like that just becomes very, very difficult to maintain to a point where you just can't anymore. So, and I think that's a point where a lot of, family run small businesses where, potentially maybe you can relate to this. Maybe when you guys started talking about the exit to your team, maybe they got scared, kind of like, oh, I don't know, man, we're going to lose this touch. And I've seen that in multiple companies and where we've been talking about that. And that's a scary thing. But I think that's the challenge for that. So it's like, okay, you grow and you get to this point where you're maybe getting to the cap of that. You can't really do that too much longer, and you sell, or
where do you draw that line?
I don't know.
Yeah. There's definitely going from like that owner directed, owner based culture in a company. There's definitely a point where that becomes very difficult when you don't know the name of all of your employees. You can't, talk specifically about jobs that are going on and that type of thing, where you're not part of that process anymore. And you're just like, hey, we hit our numbers. Okay, we're good. That's the size of business that I'm comfortable to run. And that's the size of businesses that I'm going to continue to grow, is get to the point where you've got a really great culture. You got to really getting it from that, and then jumping to those, 50, 100, $150 million companies. At that point, that's where you've got to have that corporate structure. You have to have high level, like, sales professionals that are, sitting at the kitchen table until the job closes, or they are kicked out. And
C-suite.
You have to be able to sit there and market your way out of the loss of those long-term customers when you're making that transition, because it's very difficult to do both of them at the same time. If you want to take a company that's geographically in a small area and greenfield into the larger, market, you have to maintain what's paying the bills and at the same time work all of this out in a way that, it's still profitable and maybe not necessarily. And you can do that. We had our regular service area pricing, and then in service side, you can have a secondary book of pricing. It's like, hey, this is what it is out here, because we had to pay to get those leads. Our marketing budget was 3 or 4%, like at our height. And it was 3 or 4% for the majority of the time we owned the company. And I think that that's what a lot of companies miss, especially with all of the current gurus and stuff that are out there. Like, oh yeah, scale your business, like get to $50 million in 6 months.
Right.
Like, you might be able to do that, but it's not going to be based upon a massively supportive group of customers that are going to continue to repeatedly use your business. A lot of times you're looking for those really high ticket value, one time off, not going to really be back to service them.
Or you're just clubbing people over the head to get the sell, and then later with you, never speak to you again.
Yeah.
Not to go backwards, but one of the things that you said rang true to me. It was super powerful. And I think it's powerful to anybody that is either new to business or, for me, like, I'm a young man in business figuring out what the best direction is for myself. And what you said and what he said, talking about your values and kind of who you are and how the community views you, is that you are you're another one of them that, embodies what their values are and what they care about. And I think, as a young guy in business, one of my buddies posted yesterday, he said there's a difference between change and transformation. And I think a lot of guys, they get into business and they try to show, or they try to puff out their chest and say, oh, I got to change and I got to be like all those other guys that I'm seeing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because over the years, I've seen so many guys, like he had mentioned, become the Lambo drivers, become the guy that, is flashy on social media. And the trend is that it never lasts. Like it's always kind of a flash in the pan and then it's gone. And you see it everywhere. And one of the things I wanted to let you know that I really appreciated about your story is that it seems like the success that you had is not simply, but a lot of it is just because of the person that you are and the values that you have. And you never changed away from that. You just transformed and continue to build off of those different things. So I want to let you know, I think that's important. And I think a lot of people need to hear that it's not about the guys that have the flashy lifestyles. It's about the guys that are looking 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road and saying, how am I creating a business right now that, like you said, is marketable and is ready to scale and is ready to take that next step? Because that's truly what's life-changing, not being able to drive a cool car and post cool shoes all the time. Like, that's not what business is about. When you focus on the customer, like, that is what the end in mind is.
Yeah, you see that a lot where a company will get to a certain level of success where they can afford all those things, and then their focus shifts from the things that they want to do in the future to the things they have now.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, they're already living their post-exit life. And that can be a great place to be if you want to own a company for another 10, 15 years and have that lifestyle business. But if you don't want to work in the company for another 10, 15 years and only enjoy your boat, twice a year because the rest of the time, you're working, you have all the toys, but you still have to go work every day to afford them or to use them, then we always just reinvested. Like we just reinvested, and we got toys here and there, but it was, a $34,000 used Corvette and a $34,000 aftershock boat that, we did things and we went on nice vacations and stuff. But
yeah, I think that's important too. It's like I like nice things.
Yeah.
I love nice things. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We did an interview. I don't know if you know Impact Church in Scottsdale, but with Pastor Travis Hernan. Mm-hmm. The thing he said to me was, it's when your things have you and you don't have your things that you change up and shift and start becoming that flashy guru guy. Yeah. And it's just kind of smoke and mirrors.
And you become toxic to yourself, mm-hmm. like to your own success, because now you're not thinking about, we need new trucks for the fleet. We're like, no, I need a new, F650 on,
so that some
24s.
Guy online that I know thinks about me differently.
And when I pull up to my customer's house, they're just like, what?
Yeah.
But
and then you're surprised when the truck breaks down on the way to the job.
Yeah,
you're like, what do you mean they can't get there?
And honestly, yeah, you're never going to be able to earn enough and put out enough to prove everybody wrong about what it is that you are. Like, that's just not what matters. Like,
well, I think like we talked about this on the last podcast, but it's like, I think this is where, like, a lot of men are struggling right now too. It's like you lose yourself in that too. Like you come out of that and you're like, dude, I'm doing all this like flashy stuff. And it's like, well, this isn't even who I am.
Yeah.
But somebody on social media told me to do it. So I'm doing it. And then when you come face to face with yourself and you're like, dude, that's when the depression and shit like that happens. And it's a dangerous place to be.
My brother's a Lambo guy. Like he knows 2 of his Lambos that he had ordered are sitting at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. So yeah, and he loves cars and has always loved cars, but that was a post-exit thing. Like we could have afforded it. Like we could have bought whatever, we really wanted. We had plenty of revenue to do it, but it was something that, it wasn't something that we were going to, not by an active decision, but just, we cared more about the needs of the company than we did about, living out the, our childhood fantasies. He had every die-cast Lambo that and GT50 or GT80s and all, everything that, like, that was his passion. That was never my passion. So I don't think if I get a performance car, it'll be a Porsche 4-door family vehicle. What are the
Gran Turismo?
Yeah, the GT.
Yeah.
But we both have a passion for flight. Like we both want to get our pilot's license, and he wants to get his rotary license because all of his buddies have helicopters. So it's like, hey, yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to do that, but that's something that we look at after the next exit.
Yeah.
And legacy roofing, like leaving. So after we sold the company, we had a little bit of day to day for maybe like 3 to 6 months, and then we were just kind of on the payroll for about 18 months at my prior company, and built a house, got bored and said, okay, what's the next thing? And we have a couple different ventures going, the Nuve thermostat, and then we looked at the roofing side of the industry because we heard a lot of the people in our sphere had been entering the roofing market. Little did I know that the roofing market in Arizona is one of the toughest roofing markets. There's a lot of pent up demand, but if it doesn't rain, it's very difficult. But
that's when you see who the real roofers are.
Yes.
Is Nuve with Ishmael?
Yeah.
Well,
Ishmael's our partner in this too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Explain a little bit about Nuve. I've seen it, but I don't necessarily know.
Okay, so I don't want to take credit for it or anything like that, but my brother and I have been talking about how to connect with customers in a more direct way for a long time, and what that would look like. And between Travis, Ish, and I, we had multiple conversations, and I was out there dreaming, and I mean, this is at the very, this is even before we thought there was something on the table for it. And Ish just was like, yes. And Ish is a great driver of momentum. Like he absolutely can, if he's got a goal in mind, he will take you to it. Now, is he gonna be there holding your hand the whole time? No, he's gonna drive and build the team to continue to make that happen. But I'm not involved in it on a day-to-day basis at all. My brother's involved on a day-to-day basis. I'm running Legacy, and they're running Nuve. But so let it be known that I was looking for a roofing company to enter into the market, and it turned out that my general manager at the time, Drew Zanga, his dad grew up with a guy up in Prescott, Arizona, named Toby Ebarb, and he was looking for some help in the company. Didn't necessarily want to exit all the way, but he had gotten to the point where we were kind of describing earlier. They were at that, $8 to $10 million in revenue area. He hired the middle management. The overhead was too high. Like, they were just kind of struggling, and they were trying to implement CRMs, AccuLinks, and they didn't have that technical background to where they could, get it to work. So we had a lot of the tools that he needed, and he had a company that was already very well established, very good very good reputation, but not necessarily able to take that next step. So we partnered with him. Bought 75% of the company between Travis and I and Drew, and then came in and just looked at everything that we looked at on the sale of our company, and at the same time are learning the basics of roofing, like what's a ridge, what's a eave, what's a valley, like all the basics. You're getting a crash course in it, and then started to figure out, okay, what are the major inefficiencies in this business? And one of them immediately showed itself is the bidding process. You either had to have a very, very competent roofing estimator, or you had to take losses on the back end because everything wasn't accounted for.
Right.
And a lot of companies were still, or I think many companies are still just bidding, by the square price, that type of thing. And with Service Titan, they were developing a component of Service Titan called dynamic pricing or spec-based pricing. So what we were able to do is we get a monthly import of all of our material costs, and then we built out, instead of having a custom bid for every job, we built out, okay, what does a shingle job always have on it? Per square, per linear foot, how much do we need for each and every single job? Because those are all numbers that are readily known. How much do we need for a tile job? How much do we need for a TPO job? How much do we need for a modified bitumen job? And we took all that data and we built out spec-based pricing, which takes into account your labor, it takes into account your material cost, it takes into account your overhead, and it gives you, after filling out like a 12 question form and importing your Eagle View or your GIF quick measure, you import that in, takes the measurements, multiplies it by the formula that, you know, we tweak periodically as we, you know, get our end result. Like, hey, we were short. Hey, and we've been doing that over the last year. And now it's to the point where me, a plumber, can get on a roof, and in 10 minutes, I can come back down. I get on my laptop and punch in the response. How many penetrations do I have? You know, how many feet of perimeter on, you know, the mod bit roof? Any like trouble spots? Is there a satellite that needs to be kept, or simple questions, and it pops out good, better, best, and shows me my direct cost to do the job, my gross profit, all the materials to where it's a click away. You're ordering your materials, the materials show up, and we've created the process to where I can take any salesperson or anybody with just a good personality who can talk to somebody, get on a roof, enter in a little bit of information that anybody can identify, and then, you know, produce an estimate.
Nice. Another
thing that we had struggle with is we had DNF clients, like very bad quality clients, jobs that were, this was primarily track homes. We were doing track homes, and it was for essentially just to pay for overhead. Like, there was no profit after the job was done, but it would pay for overhead. And so we cut $2 million out of our revenue there, just, you know, canceled those contracts because it was a losing proposition. And we took those resources and assigned them over to the residential retail side of the industry. And instead of getting a 25 to 30% gross margin, you know, we're hitting 45 to 47% very consistently on our profit or our margin there. And that seems to be the sweet spot right now when we're competing. If you're above 50, you're getting too much complaint. If you're below 40, you're competing with guys you really shouldn't be competing if you're delivering.
I'm curious, have you like the old way, just like price per square, and then put it up against and like, what are you seeing as like differences there? And how much were you potentially, say, losing in margin?
Where we would lose, because that form is answering a lot of questions of like, oh craps, or oh, we didn't have that, or you know, where we gained the most was that when I say that my bid is going to be 46 to 47% gross margin, we're hitting that 46, 47% gross margin consistently after everything's been paid, because our team is paid based upon gross margin. So we have to make sure that, you know, there wasn't any extra fees or missed things. And that's how we build the form to protect the salesperson, so that when they're going out, they can confidently say, like, I've got everything I need to do this job and bid this job accurately, without necessarily needing to know every aspect of roofing. Where we saw the most pickup was on the oh crap, like yeah. Oh, hey, we're short this, or hey, we're short that. In terms of where it pans out, you know, we're in that $475 to $650 square, you know,
just taking notes
market.
Yeah, he was thinking the same thing I was.
And but again, it's just one of those things. Knowing that you're confident in the bid and knowing that your end result is going to reflect what the bid presented as the data is the biggest pickup.
You just plan so much better too, because you know what it is exactly what it's going to be. No surprises.
Yeah, it's not guesswork.
So
it's just where businesses lose.
And we were just talking about this yesterday, but and correct me if I'm hearing this right or wrong, but you used to, or maybe when you first got into the industry, you saw how a lot of people were quoting jobs pretty much component by component. And so every job was essentially an edge case. It was all, because they're always going to be different. And if I'm hearing you right, you shifted that to having a standardized price book, to where you were cost averaging all the components that you knew that you were going to have ahead of time, as opposed to pricing out everything individually. Correct. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're pricing everything out individually, but we're doing it automatically instead of having to actually say, oh, what's the price for that right now? And then
and as an end result, I'm assuming like your sales guys, it's a lot simpler for them to put together a quote or an estimate.
They literally, and after, when they pull up, it's 10, 15 minutes with the client, introduce themselves, ask what the goal is for the roof. Are there any concerns? Where are the leaks at in the roof? Let's take a look at those. Let's get the interior damage photos. Get up on the roof, count your penetrations, take any specific detailed notes of any potential trouble areas, come back down. 10, 15 minutes later, you have the proposals. Like, one of the things that we lost on massively was that they couldn't do it there. They'd have to leave and then email them. It's like, no, we present the estimates right there, right away. And that's how we've increased our closing percentage dramatically, because, man, if you're just sending someone an email and they're just getting 7 emailed bids from 7 different contractors, they're not going to be going. In fact, I have a client right now. She's had like 7 estimates, and I presented everything to her, and she wanted to continue to get those estimates. And she couldn't remember our conversation from like 2 weeks ago because it's so muddled.
Yeah.
And so when she looks at all the estimates on, in her email, she's just going to go with the one that feels the best, which is the cheapest. And so, if you're not presenting the estimates there at the kitchen table, you're just debilitating your company's operational ability to take a lead and convert it into a sale.
Yeah. Can I ask, maybe it's the same on the technician side, but when you're at ProSkill and you're running that many trucks and that many guys, you're scaling and you're hiring, how did you train, and what did your training program look like to provide consistency to the customer on, like, all these guys are going to be wearing their booties every single time. They're all going to take pictures just like this, right? And then have a model to where if you lost a guy, you could bring someone in and get them trained quick and then stay consistent. Yeah.
So again, another thing that we at ProSkill, and same thing we're doing, we always like to specialize in, like, kind of not a niche, but we weren't into big, drain replacement jobs or repipe jobs. We were really involved in, like, hey, my shower is not working, or my water's hard, or my hot water heater's leaking, or my air conditioning system's not working, or, like, we were very focused on the repair and replacement of equipment, and not necessarily cutting up an entire house for the $60,000 bid that takes a week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and the customer's house is a mess at the end of it. And they've had, the shorter the interaction time I found with a customer, to where you get there, you meet them, and you're done, the less stress it puts on them and the happier they are. So the longer you drag out a project, the more stress that develops. And that's one of the things we're trying to work with on the roofing industry is, quickness to get, balancing quickness of install to making sure that we've got that, we always want to have a week or two of workout, because in Arizona, like, it didn't rain for 9 months or 7 months last year. We like to have that cushion so that we can, make sure that our guys always have work. But in a perfect world, you would sign it that we'd be there the next day, because the customer's, interaction with you is going to be 4 or 5 days and not 4 or 5 weeks.
Speed.
But that being said, that's one of the things we're still trying to tackle, balancing the ability to keep our guys busy in the slower part of the year with growing and not over-promising and under-delivering for those employees. Because the second that you get a bad rap for not, taking care of your team, you're not, that's not what you want.
So is it a similar form then on the technician side that like the sales rep would have about, hey, does the satellite need to come on or off? Is it like, put your booties on? Is it, is the CRM walking them through
on
back end?
So for us, all of our opportunities are bid by our estimators or our sales guys. And then from there, our team is just following the procedure to either do a repair or replacement. I want to get to a point where if the roof is, say, sub 7, sub 10 years, tile or shingle or whatever, I can send out a technician, and the technician will go out, bid the job, and order the material and do the work through the same type of process, and then get them to be a commission-based job, or at least a commission-leading job where they get paid hourly, and then at the end of the month, we square up and like, hey, if you were paid
reconciliation.
Yeah, we reconcile what like a 20% revenue share would be with their hourly pay, something like that, so that they know they're always getting paid. And if it's a bad month, then they still got paid. But I want to get to the point where it's like that, because that's how you get people interested in joining the roofing industry. Not a lot of people are interested in joining the roofing industry as labor, because the opportunity is piecework and new roofs, or hourly and doing repairs. In plumbing, every single truck is his own business, and essentially, I shared 22% of revenue with the technicians, and so when they'd go out, they would look for opportunity, and it wasn't like they had to sell it because they were still getting paid, but they could present like, hey, I would do this, and they would build the ticket. Where sometimes my sales team will go out and they'll misdiagnose what the issue is. The install guy goes out, or the repair guy goes out, and they're like, oh, hey, it's more, and now we're doing a change order. Where when the repair guy, they're going to be typically more knowledgeable about the actual repair and the work that needs to be done. And they can, and I want to get it to all the way to the point where either we have a flip system where they're flipping it over to the retail side or to the sales side, or they're able to bid the full roofs just like a selling tech in the air conditioning industry, where they go out, it's like, oh, your compressor's down, you want an estimate on a new system, and they're able to do follow the same process. Because I can take my repair guys and put them through that process that we just built out and have proven of how to build a roofing estimate. And that's the thing that they were missing. They didn't know how much they should bid for a full roof replacement. Now it's like, do you know how to answer 11 or 12 questions? And they're like, well, yeah, that's the stuff I work on every single day. So they answer that, they get the pricing. They have already built the consumer's confidence in them because they're there. They know what they're doing. They've articulated what the issue is, what the repair is. But hey, your roof's 14 years old, and the underlayment is degrading. And we really, I really think professionally I can fix it, but at the same time, the better investment is here. And then as leads come in, differentiate, like, hey, let the 10-year and newer roofs go to the technicians, and then let the 10-year and older go to the residential sales guys.
I think what you were saying about your kind of restructuring how your service techs go out there, because in an industry where, service guys are going to go out there, you tell them that they need to go talk to the customer about a small part of the job, and that's what they're going to be there to do. But when you put a commission behind it and you give them those upsell opportunities, your business is probably grabbing so many more opportunities than everybody else that's sending a service guy out to the job, because
that's what the homeowner wants too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say, homeowners happier at the end because they trust the person that you sent out. And they don't necessarily always trust an estimator. When you send somebody out who's like, I can do it, and I can bid it, and I can, there's immediate trust built.
And I think, what you said is exactly right, where you said, if it's a service guy and I just pay him a salary to go out there, you're probably going to have very minimal upsells. But if I just make it a thing where he has that opportunity to make a few more dollars by creating more influence and creating a better client experience, like, not only is it going to happen, but he's going to do it really well, and he's going to be incentivized to go out there and make it happen.
Yeah, the incentive goes from, what do I have to do to complete this job, to what can I do to make this customer the happiest and give them a leak-free solution. And
honestly, and make
money. And that's the plumbing and air conditioning industry. There's a lot. There's a line of people who want to join the plumbing and air conditioning industry. Like, they just don't know how to get into it without either going to a school or finding a good company to apprentice in. There's a South Park episode of, like, if you've seen it, where the handymen are driving all the Lambos.
Yes.
So, obviously there's been a massive shift over the last 15, 20 years to present, where that blue collar job is an amazing opportunity. And, hey, maybe skip the college and go right into the trades, and, you can make six figures as a plumber. You can make six figures as a air conditioning sales guy. You can make six figures as an AC installer. It needs to get to the same way in the roofing industry for us to be able to get away from the labor issues that we currently experience.
I think that South Park episode's not too far off.
No,
because I think with AI and everybody all these things that are becoming automated, the guys that are in the home service industry, those are the guys that are going to make the big bucks at the end of the day.
There's a lot of opportunity.
I'm going to push back against that because I don't necessarily agree. So my problem with that is scale. Like that's how it's scale, and it's keeping people in their lane at what their main thing is good at. And that's where I question that. My other part is because now you got to grow a ton of people. I don't personally want to grow a ton of people. I want to have the biggest small business possible, especially through my experiences. So I don't necessarily know it. So I wanted to push back against that and kind of see your thought. The other part is because this is kind of conversations that we've been having, and the other part of it is I try to, because I invest in a lot of real estate. So I'm dealing with a lot of home service companies all the time as well. So I'm also gathering data from that. And then just me as a consumer, how does that make me feel? Like, do I like all the automated stuff, keeping it easy, to where there's less kind of that interaction? And again, that's preference. Everybody's different. But like me, I like that. Like, I don't got time to go meet somebody all the time. Like, hey, here's access, get in, do your thing, whatever. So I feel like just the way, like you're saying, the world has changed so much, and it's changing even faster right now with all this AI stuff. Like, I think outside of the, the older people that just aren't going to have, a smartphone or don't look at emails or whatever, outside of that, I think consumerism is pushing towards more of that. Like, I don't have time, just automated, just get the crap done and be done with it. What's your thoughts on that?
What's the specific pushback?
Is that whereas you guys are saying the tech kind of becoming that sales guy now too, in a sense, I'm saying I don't like that because that makes it harder. So now that guy's limited to the amount of jobs he can do now. So now to continue to scale, you have to grow more people, more crews, more all that. So now you're blowing up the amount of people that you have, employee wise. And I just don't like that.
So I'll this is based upon two different things. And the reason why I'm interested in doing it is because it's different than the other thing. In air conditioning, you have tune-ups. And tune-ups are a total... You're just going out there to try to find, to be there at the right time to sell them a new air conditioning system. And so you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12,000 contracts where you're going out twice a year. You're making, $100, $200, and then, capacitors and fan motors. And in the slow season, those guys are just getting paid hourly, essentially. And their opportunity is very low when it's not 115 degrees outside. And, they try to flip every job, and you start to have a customer service issue where it's like, hey, you've told me for the last 5 years that I need a new system, and, it's working just fine. They probably should have got a new system 5 years ago because it would have been about 2/3 of the price, and they would have made. But that being said, at the consumer's mind, they're trying to sell me something I don't need. So I've always explained that to the customer, like, hey, you don't need this today, but, so you try to get ahead of that problem or that thought process. But, so you have that issue of where you've got all these guys that you've built and are good, but they're only really functionally really beneficial for the company for 6 months of the year. That's the plumbing and air conditioning industry, and that is the way almost the entire industry works today. It's going to change a little bit as, Nuvei is actively monitoring the system, and you do a diagnostic remotely, and hey, your system's running great. Like, compared to all the other houses in the area that have Nuvei thermostats installed, you're reaching your set point in an appropriate amount of time. It couldn't be doing that if you had a dirty filter or low refrigerant or bad. You'll be able to do that. That being said, right now that's the way that industry's working. That's how it's always worked historically. On the plumbing side, it's not that way. You go out for a $99, $100, reverse osmosis filter change, and you're touching a water heater, a pressure regulating valve, a water softener, toilets. Like, you have a bunch of opportunity on the table. And so you can take a small opportunity and turn it into a large opportunity on a lot of different jobs because there's so much you can look at. And that being the case, the average ticket of my plumbers was always $2,000-$3,000. In roofing, our average repair is $2,000-$3,000, four or five. Like once it gets over $4,000 or $5,000, if they're not getting a new roof, then what's really going on there? Is it that it's a really, really big roof and they just need one component fixed, or is it that they need to spend another 10 to get a new roof? Well, when you build out a team that can go out and take care of the $3,000-$4,000 repairs, and they can go out, estimate it, and take it from being a lower ticket value, like where the sales guy is not necessarily like looking at all the different things and then bidding it short, or and then creating a change order later. These guys are going out, they're able to build their own tickets and repair a roof that isn't necessarily in replacement time frame yet. With those $2,000-$3,000 repairs, that's a half day, maybe a full day, and they're doing their own work and that type of thing. Now you can create install crews. The step after that is you have those guys go out, they do the repairs, and if it is a $3,000 repair and not a $1,200 repair, then that's going to an install crew and they're getting paid, fixed work. But if it's something that they can do on site, or they can do it the next day and it's going to take half a day, and they can do those $1,200 repair, $1,200, like 2 or 3 of them a day, where they're making $3,000 to $4,000 a month, that truck becomes extremely profitable. You're serving your customer a lot quicker than relying upon install teams after an estimate. They can do a temporary, they can do an emergency dry-in. There's just a lot of tools that you have available when you have a competent person who can be there and sell it, do it, or flip it. When you just rely on estimators and install crews, you a lot of the small stuff falls through the gaps, and your quickness to respond is going to be slower if you only have 3 or 4 or 5 sales guys for a $10 to $15 million company. When it's pouring outside, if you got a line of techs who can go out there and fix, and those guys can also be used for they can do if it's slower, they can do their own full day repairs. I see it as an opportunity to you're creating more of a hybrid, because the dollar amount's right between a plumbing company and an air conditioning company, where you have more opportunity on a regular basis, but these guys also have the ability to flip it and or sell themselves. And that benefits them, that benefits their family, that benefits the community. They can grow and they can attract other labor. I don't think that we're going to get a massive line. We're not going to get the line of people if we don't change the way we're treating our repair technicians and installers. You're not going to get a massive line of people wanting to enter this industry when we're all trying to scale businesses that absolutely needs that labor.
Yeah, I think, as you're talking, I'm just, because I always want to push back because I want to find the best way to do it. But as you're talking to me, I'm like, it is very industry specific. Mm-hmm. Like what you're saying makes sense for, say, DNR. I don't think that works. You're not going to have sales guys that are going to get up there and you can't do the work right away anyway.
No.
Because you got to wait for the roof. But, so yeah, I see that as industry specific for sure. But yeah, I still see that as where that becomes harder to scale, because now you're scaling a lot more people. Plus, you have a smaller pool, because now you have to have a guy that's willing to be the sales guy, but also has to have the skill set to do the work.
And that's, so someone had asked earlier how we brought guys in and trained them and stuff. It would be through an apprenticeship program where, once we have 3 or 4 guys, you just bite the bullet and spend 6 months with them, making $20 an hour. And after 6 months, now you got 8.
Yeah.
And for the businesses that I'd want to build in the sweet spot for your highest multiple and like for that roll up type position, I want to grow a business that's somewhere between $15 and $25 million, because they're not really interested in the companies that are sub 5, and they're not really interested in the companies that are much larger than 25, because it becomes, price prohibitive, and you're going to have a lot of conflicting C-suites. Like your corporate suite over here is strong over here as well, and now you've got redundancies, right. and they've also lost the ability to
grow,
to get that extra money out of the company where they can bring their scale to it.
Yeah,
because if you're a $25 to $50 million plumbing and air conditioning company, negotiated the best prices you can. Like you've already done, you're getting the best insurance premiums you can. You've negotiated the best contracts for vehicle wraps and marketing. Like there's not a lot of opportunity there, but I like that sweet spot, because it's something that is in my wheelhouse, like that. So I do what I know.
Yeah. Right on. Go ahead.
I know you're getting ready to wrap it up.
Yeah, we've kept this guy a long
appreciate
time.
you being on for an hour and a half. One of the things I wanted to bring up before we hopped off, I think it was just about a month ago, Rio and Tyler, they threw one of the first HSA events. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a lot of rah-rah, there's a lot of cattle call events that are out there with not a lot of value. And I know what they're both trying to do is create an environment where they can have guys like yourself come in that have sold a company for $35 million, that have a ton of experience, that can, as you said earlier, raise the ships in this industry and create a better standard, that create longer lasting, growing businesses. And that's what we're all here for at the end of the day, is to help elevate everyone around us as well as ourselves. Would you mind just sharing a couple words as far as your perspective on that event? And as we continue to grow these events, how is maybe a little bit unique for you or different? I mean, obviously giving away guns, doing the shooting.
When we all know it needs to be in the West Valley already. I'm sorry, North Valley.
Yeah.
We'll get up by you.
A next event we should go airsofting.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm doing it right after this. I'm taking my son, my dad, my brother, and his son.
So we can keep him for another 30, 40 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But what was I going to say? I never joined a business best practice group. The only experience I had with any best practice groups was called Plumbing Success International. And my boss at my first job before I started my company took me with him, and it was a all day presentation. The first 4 hours, they laid out everything you need to do to build a successful company. And their pitch was that you can do all this over the next 5 years, or you can pay $25,000 now and $2,500 a month, and we'll help you get there.
Yeah.
In like the next 6 months to a year.
Right.
And I was 22 at the time, and I said, "Well, I don't have $2,500. Definitely don't have $25,000, but I got 5 years." So right. I took that playbook, and a lot of what we did was based upon that bullseye marketing, market dominance. That was what we did. But where I got the best advice from, where I got the best coaching, the best mentorship, was I would go on the train rewards trips. I'd go on the Ferguson rewards trips. I'd go anywhere I could to find somebody who was in a position that I wanted to be. Like, and if I saw someone and I was like, maybe they are driving the Lambo, I don't know. Like at the time, any success was success that I was interested in understanding.
Absolutely. And
my experience was that everyone was so willing to help. Like, hey, what are you struggling with? What are you doing with marketing? Where are your successes? Like, and they would genuinely just open up their playbook and give me the best plays that were working for them. And the difference was, and Kevin Howard said this, he said, "I'll tell you everything I do in my business because no one else will do it."
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, anyways, we did. And
I think a lot of those value components are what they're going to continue to
And
add.
I appreciate Kevin Howard for teaching us.
Yeah. I think a lot of those things that you had mentioned are what they're looking, and kind of what your guys' vision is to bring to HSA, as far as like the best business practices, things like that. I don't know about as specific as what you had seen, but what did you think about that event that we went to out in the Queens Valley?
No, I you're making connections and finding new opportunities just like this, and you're hearing what's happening, in the Valley. You're hearing what the trend is. Like, it's always reassuring to hear, like, hey, I'm successful and you're successful, or hey, I'm slow and you're slow too. It's like, oh, it's industry, not necessarily me. It's always good to get that. And then it's good to go blow off some steam and have an opportunity to just, network and build those connections, because it's, the connections we built over the years, Tom Howard over at Service Titan and owner of Lee's Air and Fetch a Tech, Jerry Finney, Ishmael Valdez, Tommy Mello, like Kevin Howard and the Hobica brothers, like all of those different people that we met over the time. Either they directly helped us in some way, or we directly helped them in some way. And after all of that, all those relationships that were outside of boss, employer relationships, all those relationships continue and they have staying power, and you can lean on those people to either do a partnership or, like give you feedback or kick you in the butt when you're not, doing enough or standing up for, what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, same thing. Look, I've learned a ton. I won't say a ton, but I've learned a lot from, going to events and having somebody up on stage telling me stuff. But most of the time what I kind of realized and took from it is just like kind of rah motivation. And then I leave there and the motivation goes away, and then it's just like, whatever. And, I also learned through my experiences in building businesses and, that I like more, this is a podcast, but more of this type of deal. Like I want to have, and it's kind of the idea for HSA, but like, let's put some great events together that are a good time where, guys can get together and shoot the shit and tell each other about what they're doing and just mastermind in a sense and, add a lot of value there. And, maybe eventually have a little more structure to it where it is kind of the, hey, we've, done this and the people involved in this have done this. Let us help you get there, type of deal. But, I think there just needs to be more of that. Let's go have a great time, good experience. Let's shoot the shit, have a beer, have a cigar.
Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like don't go trying to, no one cares about how successful you are. They care about
mistakes you made. Yeah.
The what you can do for each other. If you're like, be vulnerable, tell people where your issues are, and they will help you.
Yeah.
If you just go and you're like, oh, I'm just the, what do they say? The
big swinging dick.
Yeah, the BSD. Yeah. Then you're going to be, you're not going to get a lot of help. People aren't, I guess sometimes big swing dicks like to swing together, but
yeah,
I don't know.
It's true.
But it's not those conversations that you see in front of people. It's all the stuff that, one-on-ones or, small group stuff, the intimate things. That's where real sharing is going. So that's what I would encourage people to do is be vulnerable, go out, put yourself out there when you're at those events, make a good connection or two, and then take that and go and build on that connection. Because one or two solid connections is worth more than 50 acquaintances.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, awesome, man. Tyler, I appreciate you coming out, man. This was good. I think there was a lot of value in that some of these home service guys are going to take from that and learn from that. And especially because, you had a great experience in your exit. So, yeah, man, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.